Some of you may have heard the scuttlebutt on FujiRumors.com that Fujifilm would not be releasing a GFX model in the year 2020. Some people seem to think this is a negative thing, but I really don't think it is. I'm using some of my recent shoots to prove a point. Here you see a shoot I did at Alex and Afton Vintage with Carly and Brennan, and it was overcast light. And yes, overcast light is pretty much easy to work with. It's nice and soft. It's really hard to get a bad angle, so to speak, although you do have to deal with like the flatness of light. I had no trouble whatsoever with the GFX and the 50S and the 32 to 64 and this lighting. Autofocus grabbed very reliably. I worked very quickly. I had very few problems doing anything on this shoot. I was very pleased. It handled a variety of movement, a variety of backgrounds, not much variety of light, but overall did a great job and was razor sharp. It's not a big deal.
Hey, it's like a seesaw. Open your camera's like,
oh no, it's okay. All right. Well, that was an adventure. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I just saw the sky like go back. I was like. That was just like the highlight of my day.
There was perhaps not as much bokeh as I would have gotten with another lens or whatever, but it really doesn't bother me anymore. Check the card to see how I feel about bokeh. A couple of years ago, when I was ready to move on from the manual focus Hasselblad CFV50C system I was using, I just had so much trouble focusing and it was getting taxing and annoying and slowing me down, although the sensor was great. More on that in a minute. When I was looking at moving into the GFX50S a couple years ago, the GFX50R was strong in a rumor mill, and a lot of people were warning me not to jump on board, and because it would immediately be outdated by the 50R, and I guess people assumed that the autofocus would be better and so on. Regardless, the 50R was still just a rumor when I bought my camera, and of course I bought it, the 50S, because I was just tired of waiting and I wanted to move on and just shoot. The 50R was announced probably less than 3 months later, which at first seemed pretty silly and made me feel kind of dumb, but in reality it's just a slimmed down 50S. The sensor is one that has been floating around medium format cameras of this style for I think more than 5 years now.
That looks so, oh my god, that looks so cool. I didn't know I could bend like that.
And I used it on the Hasselblad CFV for a couple of years, and I love that thing. And even the new Hasselblad uses the same sensor, and actually the autofocus is not better. The main two areas I would be concerned about as far as the decision to buy now or buy later would be noise and autofocus. Get drunk on Monday. Yeah, this looks nice. I don't know why Deb's is decorated when they're not open at night, but you know.
I know, Deb's is the bomb.
So I basically torture tested the GFX50S at this little night scene, and it was challenging. It was definitely too much for the autofocus, but this was really dark, I should add. I'm sure like the latest Sonys and Canons and probably Nikons could handle this better. I had to switch over into manual focus. The nice thing about shooting with the native even slow lens like this is that the Fuji manual focus settings on the internal viewfinder are excellent. There's a great zoom function that makes it real easy to find your focus. The noise turned out pretty well for up to 5000 ISO. It was definitely grainy, but it was real easy to play off as something like film grain. And as you can see on these photos, I'm really burned out on extreme digital perfection, and shooting more film lately has really retuned me to appreciate grain. And this reminded me of working with Ilford Delta 3200. So I would give this camera a pass in the low light. I was happy with it. Oh, you can put that in forward.
Is it safe to put right here?
Yeah. That's out of the way. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back toward the edge of the steps maybe, since it just all of a sudden got really, really bright. Finally, I wanted to do kind of a normal sunset type test. So I went out with my friend Holly, who you might remember from my New York adventures, check the card, and her sister Corey on a rooftop at sunset for some fun, bright photos with a little motion. Holly and Corey are both dancers, and aside from a couple of moments, I really didn't struggle at all with autofocus in this situation. The only time was you'll see some kicks Holly was doing that and some like bends and stuff. I'm bad at dance terminology, but you'll see some stuff she did that I did struggle with autofocus. For the most part, this system does not get in my way. I've used this sensor for most of the last 4 years. I love it. It doesn't hold me back whatsoever. And until they make a true 6x7 or larger medium format sensor that's accessible with good autofocus, at least this good or better, I really have no use for a new digital camera. I'm very happy, which is really unusual for me to say. But the question remains, if you have not upgraded or gotten one of these cameras, what should you do? That does depend a lot on how much action you need to catch. If I were to buy at a new price and not think of used, I would say, unless you need one of the tilting screens or something like that, to go for the 50R because it's newer and cheaper. And if you don't do a lot of really, if you don't do a lot of things that like video or autofocus or whatever that you would need upgrades for, go ahead and buy. If you want to buy the 50S, if you're not going to plan on making heavy use of phase detect autofocus, I would probably buy the 50S too. And either one of these cameras you could probably keep for 2 to 4 years, because these medium format sensors, even from a couple of versions before this, are still viable. If you like these types of behind the scenes looks and thoughts about sometimes equipment and a lot of times about philosophical aspects of art and just the life of art making, please consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications. Like the video if you enjoy it. I try to put out a video every week, and I just crossed the 700 barrier, or I'm kind of right there. And I'm real excited because my next push is going to be for 1,000, and well, that's just thrilling to think about after over a year of hard work on this. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. The comments have been super fun lately, though. I gotta say, I really appreciate that. It's a great time to chat with you in the comments. So please also leave a comment if you feel so inclined. And while I'm thanking my viewers, I also have to especially thank my patrons for supporting this channel. They're listed here. They're super awesome. And yeah, if you want to join that, there's a link in the description. Thanks. I didn't regret buying the 50S one bit. I feel great about it and still feel great about it. The 50R was smaller, and if you were to buy new, sure, go ahead and buy the 50R if you don't have a compelling reason to get one of the advantages of the 50S, like the more actuations on the LCD monitor or the ability to have the tilt viewfinder or the vastly superior hand grip, I might add. But otherwise, if you're buying new, I'd probably buy the 50R. If you have the budget, definitely buy the GFX100. It's going to be an interesting 2021, I guess, for Fuji. But until then, rest easy and enjoy those medium format pixels or whatever you can get. And if you don't enjoy pixels, enjoy the grain. Or do like me and enjoy both. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.